Hey motorcycle fans, I'm Larry Hoffman, and this is the Blackwater 100 video. Along with Buddy Little and four-time Blackwater champion Mark Hyde, we're going to bring you the following home video entertainment made possible by Scott USA, manufacturers of high-performance motorcycle racing goggles and fashionable eyewear. Scott USA, the difference is clear. By Wiseco high-performance motorcycle and ATV pistons forged from high-silicone, low-expansion aluminum alloy. Wiseco pistons will increase the life of any cast iron line cylinder. By KTM Motorcycles. When you're caught between a rock and a hard place, turn to KTM and find out why a KTM motorcycle is built for champions. By Yokohama Tires, the official tire of the 1990 Blackwater 100. Yokohama, tires built for America's toughest race. By Dirt Bike Magazine, the off-road magazine America turns to. By Dirt Wheels Magazine, America's best source for Blackwater 100 ATV coverage. And by Cycle News, America's weekly motorcycle newspaper.
Welcome to the 16th annual Blackwater 100. I'm Bud Little, and this is America's toughest motorcycle and ATV race. Each year on Father's Day weekend, thousands of off-road enthusiasts converge on the small community of Davis, West Virginia to witness 2 days of competition on some of the most difficult and challenging terrain that this country has to offer. As the teams go through the pre-race ritual of last-minute preparation for the long and demanding event, the spectators pick out their vantage points in and around Davis. The town's businesses do their best to make sure that everyone has a great stay in Davis. The Blackwater 100 weekend is the most prosperous time of the year for the community merchants. Among first of orders of business for the event itself is the registration of all competitors and the drawing of starting positions. Another necessary task is transporting the numerous track personnel to their locations along the race course's 20-mile routes. The Blackwater 100 began in 1974 as a motorcycle race, but since 1983, the town has also opened the event to all-terrain vehicles. The first Saturday race for the ATVs attracted about 24 brave souls and was won by a local guy named Donnie Scud Huggins. Since that time, the event has grown to the point where the ATV race rivals the bikes in numbers and popularity. Nearly 500 competitors take to the streets on Saturday afternoons for their chance to ride the famed Blackwater 100 course. Following the 11 a.m. riders meeting, the competitors begin the slow process of pushing their machines through town to their respective starting positions along Main Street. The riders have drawn numbers from 1 to 500 in order to determine starting positions. The signal is finally given at 1 o'clock. Riders, start your engines. Bennett throws the flag every 5 seconds to allow a different group of riders to light off into the dust, which will probably be the only dust they see for the next 2 hours. At the top of the bank, riders get antsy about having their turn in the water. But down lower, everyone is just trying to stay afloat. It's a race to hurry up and wait your turn to cross the Beaver Creek on the outskirts of town. Further up the trail, the front runners are making their way into the spacious Canaan Valley, where most of the racing takes place. The early leader is Pennsylvania's Chuck DeLulo, runner-up in last year's cross-country series. DeLulo is a veteran of the Blackwater 100 and knows that the spectators can be as much an obstacle as any of the course's mud holes and creek crossings. While DeLulo zigzags his way through the early stages of the race on his Wiseco-equipped Brockway Honda 4Trax 250, Indiana's Bob Sloan comes into the picture. Sloan is a defending Grand National champion in the cross-country series and is known for his aggressiveness. He makes it through this section with a little help from his friends.
A lot of people might call that cheating, Buddy, but at the Blackwater 100, if you've got friends, you better use them.
Traction is a big part of this race. Someone pulling on the front end while you put your weight on the back is usually the best way out of a jam.
However, you don't want to get too far back.
Wow, that's called a Blackwater backflip. Scenes like these are why thousands of people travel from all over the country to witness firsthand some of the muddiest mud bog mania ever. This guy is determined to gas his way out of trouble. And with a little help from his newfound friends, he breaks through. Hey, can't someone tell him it's okay to let go of the bike just for a second? Now, it looks to me like this guy is just hopping into this mud bog to take a mud bath. Hey, Mom, where's the soap?
Riders may not want to ask for directions, but a helping hand is always welcome, and most times a necessity. You can tell the more seasoned fans by the way they help extract riders from the mud. Working from the front, veteran fans will form a human chain to help a rider through. After miles in the valley of mud bogs, the hard ground and green forest of the Appalachian Mountains can be a welcome sight to a man and his machine.
Talking about machines, this lonely machine just awaits the return of its master, as the Blackwater's mountainous terrain has proven too much for someone. This portion of the Blackwater is very interesting. Upon first view of this forest setting, one would think that these trees are embedded in nice, soft soil. But in reality, these trees are embedded in 100% hard, cold rock. If you look closely, the leaves that cover the Earth's floor are really covering those sharp, abrasive roots of these massive trees. The key to getting through this portion of the Blackwater is to stay on course and not to try any fancy lines. One false move and you could find yourself lost deep within the West Virginia forests with no way out, no gas, and only your feet for your guides.
It may look like a leisurely trail ride through the woods, but even the peaceful forests of this area contain obstacles that can keep riders pushing all day long. The Blackwater 100 is as much a test of strength and endurance as it is a race of speed and skill. Just past the halfway mark on the course, the arrows point the riders into the infamous Moon Rocks, a section of stones that run across the top of Hatfield Mountain and keep the riders occupied for over 1 mile of the race.
Traditionally, the Moon Rocks prove to be an easy obstacle in comparison with racing motorcycles at the Blackwater. But if you're not careful, the Moon Rocks can present problems. Once you make it up the steep portion of the rock, it's pretty much easy sailing over the hill. So far, it's been river crossings, mud bogs, rocky mountainous terrain, and now moon rocks that these riders have to contend with. And they've not even completed one lap of the Blackwater course. This is America's toughest race.
These sharp and jagged rocks are as formidable an opponent for some of the riders as the notorious bogs.
I talked earlier with a few of the ATV participants, and they were telling me how important good ATV tires really are in racing the Blackwater. The tires have to be strong enough to take a beating at every point of the Blackwater. I even found out that there's a company called ITP that makes an ATV tire called the Blackwater. Incredible. Finally, it looks like there's an easier way across the Scott USA Moon Rocks.
And just like the other parts of the course, following the other riders can be very important to your survival. The Moon Rocks are an unforgiving culprit of this track, but they do give the riders a chance to slow down and take a look around at the scenic beauty of the area.
Once over the hill portion of the Moon Rocks, you're really in for a bumpy ride. We call it the Devil's Freeway. Thousands of years in the making, the pure rock landscaping gives way to some beautiful wildflowers and some not-so-beautiful beat-up and dirty ATV racers. But beauty and wildflowers are not the prize of winning the Blackwater. It takes mud and guts just to finish this race.
As the riders descend from the Moon Rocks and begin winding their way back towards town, they're about to encounter the most feared obstacle in off-road racing, the notorious Route 93 river crossing and its thousands of fans, known collectively as the Mud Fleas. They arrive by the truckloads and fill the waters as if a huge baptism were about to begin. They practice their tribal mud dance for hours before the riders appear at the east bank of the Route 93 river crossing. These are the Mud Fleas. On the opposite bank of the water, a human wall forms that the riders must climb into. Actually, the Mud Fleas are there to help the participants in the race to make it up the slippery banks of the river's edge. The climb becomes a hands-on experience for riders and fans alike. Many of the mud fleas have become so adept at helping the riders that they can catch a falling ATV in one hand and never even spill their beer. Three-wheelers were banned from competition by the American Motorcyclist Association a few years back. This guy snuck into the water for a few attempts at climbing the bank. After several unsuccessful tries, there was nothing left of his trike.
Even though the mud fleas have a reputation for being just a little bit rowdy, most of the riders, myself included, would tell you without their help, you could never finish the Blackwater.
Well, this portion of the Blackwater is by far my personal favorite. After the many times of witnessing this incredible mob scene at the Route 93 river crossing, I'm amazed at the spectator participation displayed in this scene. I mean, I've been a professional television and radio announcer in the motorcycle industry for a lot more years than I'd like to admit, and I've not seen this type of excitement. Well, I've rarely seen this type of excitement anywhere else in the world. And I would like to say that my hat is off to Dave and Rita Coombs and the Alpine Festival offices in Davis, West Virginia. They have made this Blackwater 100 ATV race the race it really is. And this is what they call unbelievable ATV racing excitement.
After the Route 93 crossing, it's a sprint to the finish. Bob Sloan won the 1990 Blackwater 100 by 2 minutes over Pennsylvanians Norm Bish and Chuck DeLulo. Maryland's Teddy Trey placed 4th overall, while Missouri Honda rider Ricky Matson finished 5th. It's Father's Day morning, time for the Blackwater 100 motorcycle race. The riders' meeting has adjourned, and the streets are filled with riders and fans preparing for the 16th annual running of the bike race. The 1990 event will play host to nearly 500 competitors traveling from more than 30 states and Canada, and about 25,000 fans. The bikes line up down the street 5 abreast, with the first 25 rows reserved for the expert class riders. California Desert star Larry Rossler has drawn the #1 starting position and places his Kawasaki KX250 on the pole position next to the 125 KTM of relatively unknown Tom Norton. Just before the final countdown to takeoff begins, Rossler fouls a spark plug, killing his engine. He has just seconds to change the plug before 500 riders make their way into the first turn. Rossler got a hand to change the plug with seconds to spare.
This is a crucial moment. Everybody's ready to start, and the #1 rider on the pole position needs a spark plug. So Larry Rossler's mechanic goes to work, and the Blackwater referee delays the race briefly to allow for the change. As the others watch on, it's the California boy, the Desert Fox Larry Rossler from Irvine, California, who needs a little help to get started. Before the race, many predicted Larry Rossler would win this race overall, but there's no room for predictions at the Blackwater.
Now we're ready to go, and the referee begins the 5-second countdown. And it's Rossler getting the jump on Norton and the #12 bike of Ohio's Gary Roach. There goes 125cc ace Gene O'Neill on the inside. 85 race winner Terry Cunningham is second from left in this row. Here's West Virginia's own Timmy Coombs lighting off from the 4th row. And now a rooftop view of the dozens of rows that follow up the street. They will race down into the right-handed corner that will then lead them to the first river crossing, the shallow Beaver Creek crossing. From there, it will be 4 25-mile loops around the valley.
Buddy, it's a little easier to see the river as the riders wait to cross the first river crossing, unlike yesterday's situation before the ATV riders tried to cross.
Less than half a mile out of town, the pack runs into their second obstacle. There's Cunningham on the Kawasaki taking a middle route. And behind him, Ohio's Gene O'Neill goes down on the 7 Yamaha. He barely makes it across the muck without sinking in. Here comes North Carolina's Steve McSwain on the #28 KTM trying to make a pass on O'Neill. Number 4 is Tim Shepard, and a rider goes down. Can't tell who that is. Number 41 is Ohio Yamaha rider Jeff Russell, and there's Dave Fallis right behind him. Once out of this section, the riders must wade across the Camp 70 ford the second time through the Blackwater River.
After going through the muddy trenches, this second river crossing is a blessing in disguise. Number one, you can wash some of that heavy mud off your bike. And number two, you can get some cool relief from the summer's hot sun. There's one thing to watch out for in this particular river crossing. First, the large rocks hidden on the riverbed floor and the deep ruts that previous bikes created as they churn through the riverbed sand.
Riders have to be careful in the water because one slip here can cause major damage. This guy's day is over.
It sure is, Mark. Dropping that bike into the water like that can cause lots of havoc.
We catch up with the leaders again about 6 miles out of town. There's a surprising new leader now as Norton has overtaken Rosler. This is only the second ever Blackwater 100 for the New Englanders, but he's certainly riding like a pro. No 125cc motorcycle has ever led this late into the race, much less ever got close to winning. We'll see if Norton can snap the losing streak.
Tommy Norton on a KTM.